see you. Excellent. How you doing? Good, excellent. How's everyone today?
Good morning, very good, thank you.
Good to see everyone. Great, excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming, everyone. It's greatly appreciated. You know you're my favorite media.
Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank you for coming today, and it's great to see everyone. And we have I'll just say a couple words, then you can start asking any questions you want. When we came into office, as you probably heard 1,000 times, we inherited a $15 billion deficit, $347 billion debt, largest sub-sovereign debt in the entire world. And to put it into perspective, we're spending $1.5 million an hour on interest on our debt. That's $36 million a day, $13.3 billion a year. And to give you an idea, that's the fourth largest ministry in our government. So next to healthcare, education, social services, I call it the Ministry of Debt. It's $13.3 billion. Put it into perspective, the previous government, the Liberals, were spending $40 million a day more than they were taking in. So just imagine your own households, you're spending more than what you're earning. It's not feasible. I mean, it's we have to make sure we pave a path for our children, our grandchildren, and give them a future. So when the budget came out, we did a responsible, a very reasonable, but most important, a thoughtful budget, and we focused on things that matter. Two things that matter is a great healthcare system, and we increased healthcare $1.3 billion to over $63 billion, and we increased education by $700 million. But we'll get into more of the details, and by all means, we'll start asking questions.
All right, great. So I'm just going to read off of the list over here. Remind you again to please keep your questions short so that we can go through everything. We've got Ray Chan from Singtel Media.
Ray Chan, there you go. Yes.
And so, how about the, is there will be cancelled about the speed train from Windsor to Toronto?
Yeah, well, what we have to do, first of all, we have to make sure that we take care of our balance sheet. That was a massive expense, and the volume, the density of people, it just wasn't feasible to do it. I'd rather put money into areas that matter, like the LRT, be it in Hamilton, all day go from Niagara region and Kitchener-Waterloo region. We're putting $27 billion, the largest project in transportation in all of North America, $27 billion for Toronto and the GTA. For the first time, we've taken a regional approach when it comes to transit. So we're bringing subway right up to Richmond Hill, Markham area, which is going to be beneficial for the people in the GTA. We're also putting a 3-stop subway out in Scarborough. The people of Scarborough have been ignored, so we're building the subway there. And we're also building a phenomenal line. We call it our crown jewel, is the Ontario line, running from Ontario Place all the way up to the Ontario Science Centre. And the last line will be here in Etobicoke along Eglinton, so from the end of the new Eglinton line all the way out to the airport. So we're finally getting transit moving. For 30 years, you've seen transit stand still here in this province, and now we've uploaded the transit. We've taken the financial burden off of the city of Toronto with the state of good repair. They're $20 billion behind. They keep talking about transit. They've never done anything. In the last 5 years, the city hasn't put a shovel in the ground. They talk a good story, but they don't do anything. So we've transferred this to Metrolinx, to Infrastructure Ontario, and the Ministry of Transportation. They have some brilliant people there, and they're going to get it done on budget and on time.
Okay. We have Kiruba from Easy24 News.
Hi, Doctor.
How are you, buddy?
First of all, the Ford family is a people family. People love
Yes.
their family.
Yes.
How you are with close enough other people.
Yes.
But the question is, as soon as you come to the power, and a lot of changes
Yeah.
you are doing, as soon as power, the gas was under $1, and so all of a sudden went down.
Yeah.
People a little disappointed. A lot of changes doing so quick.
Yeah,
So,
but I'll answer the gas question right off the hop. We're the only government that reduced gas by 4.5 cents. We took that off. The federal government has put the worst tax you could ever put on the backs of people is the carbon tax. And we're looking at moving forward and reducing another 4.5 cents, hopefully by next year. And we reduced the gas bills. You see on your gas bills have gone down as well. But now, with this new carbon tax that does absolutely nothing for the environment, it's just a tax, everything's going back up again. So I think it's critical that when the federal election comes up, you have to think, who's going to take care of my family? Who's going to reduce gas prices? Another reason is we should be self-sufficient. We have so much oil in this country, but they put a halt on the pipeline, and it's basically destroyed Alberta. We need to have the pipelines flowing to the refineries, and then we can be self-sustaining rather than bringing in, millions of barrels of oil every single day. We shouldn't have to do that when we're an oil-rich country. But the Prime Minister canceled the pipeline over $4.5 billion. For what? That was our money, and it's costing us more. So we're going to make sure that it's better off for the people here in Ontario. And the question is, I'm going to simplify that question that you gave me. Is this province better off now than it was a year ago before we got elected? It's not a little better off, it's 1,000 times better off. We brought the deficit from right down to $11.7 billion. We had a $15 billion deficit. We were able to manage the debt and bring that down by $4 billion. So we're chipping away at it, but the only way you can take care of the most important things that matter to families is by taking care of the finances. It's no different than your house, your small business, large business, medium. You can't spend more than you take in. Our economy is booming under our government right now. We have 250,000 jobs available. We have a labor shortage right now, and the government doesn't create jobs, I always say. They create the environment for the private sector to thrive and prosper and grow. And when we've cut regulation, lowered taxes, making sure that we cut as many regulations as we can, because it's even better than a tax cut, private sector will thrive. All the private sector wants is the word certainty. Just like in our lives, we want certainty. We want to know where we're going, and so we've given we've created that path for businesses, and they're thriving right now. No matter if I'm in Ottawa or Windsor or Kenora or Kitchener-Waterloo, every company, skilled or unskilled, the number one issue right now is we need people. And we don't have enough people to fill the jobs right now. But we're putting a site together that's going to match up the employers with employees looking for jobs. We're going to work with people on ODSP that can work. We feel there's a couple 100,000 people that are able to work, and we're going to connect them with jobs as well. We're going to start in grades 11 and grade 12, starting to get kids into courses that they can actually earn a credit and go out there and work in a field that they might be interested in. We're putting another $11.2 million into that, and also in the trades, with the college trades and universities. I should say trades, colleges, and universities. We put a program in there as well to work with the trades industry, because there's so many trades out there that are short right now. And we've noticed a lot of students are going to university, get their diploma, and then they go back to college. 25%, one of the colleges told me, are university students coming back to find a trade in their area. So right now, we just have to keep on a steady pace and continue thriving. Again, our economy, you haven't seen it on fire like this in years, absolutely years. And since we've been elected, we've created the environment for 170,000 new jobs. Those are staggering numbers in 1 year. Compared to the previous government, 300,000 jobs left the province under the Liberals, manufacturing jobs, because companies were just tired of all the red tape, the regulations, high taxes, high hydro rates, and so they just left. Now we have to attract companies back and keep them here to expand. And the businesses out there, no matter if it's a little convenience store or large companies, they're excited about our government, and we're going to continue moving forward to help the people.
Okay, we've got Michael Shu from Fairchild.
Hey, how are you doing? Good.
So you have just announced cancel the CUP funding plan last week, and some argue that it's
I apologize, which funding plan?
Okay, you have just announced to cancel the funding cut plan on last week, right?
Yeah.
So some argue that is because you don't have good enough communication with the city.
Oh, okay.
So what do you think about this?
Okay, so we're asking the cities, 92% of all the money that we have at the province goes out to our stakeholders, which is the ministries, schools and universities, colleges, and hospitals. So we aren't holding a whole bunch of money at Queen's Park, but they're the ones who spent the money the last 15 years. We need them to find 4 cents on a dollar, and in Toronto's case, 1 cent on the dollar. And ask anyone, ask your family when you go home, do you think the government wastes 4 cents on every dollar they spend? Overwhelmingly, yes. And a perfect example was the school board, the Toronto District School Board, going out there and wanting to buy 4,000 new top-of-the-line iPhones for everyone. It's staggering when you hear that. And they're out there complaining about efficiencies they have to find, but then if we never caught them, they'd spend $5.5 million on top-of-the-line iPhones. For what? They just love wasting money. To get a picture hung, it'll cost $800. They bring people over, TDSB, to hang a picture, or they have 4 people moving a bench. There's so much waste at the school boards, and we have to hold them accountable. We're focusing on making sure that we turn this province around, and they can easily find the savings. So what we've offered is $7.5 million to go in there and support them and do an audit. If they can't find it, then we'll bring in auditors to find it, because the taxpayers are tired. They're tired of the governments gouging them. You know, no matter if it's a municipal or provincial or federal governments, there's waste, and we have to find ways to bring down the deficit that they help spend. So they kept saying, we need more time, we need more time. But they finally admitted, okay, their savings. So once they admitted their savings, they wanted more time, so we're going to give them a little more time. They wanted till next year, we'll give them till next year, but they better find the savings next year. And it's easy. I did it. If I didn't do it with Rob down there, and I know a lot of you were down there when we found the savings, the city was booming back then. We had more cranes than New York, Chicago, Dallas, Boston combined. And we had a 0% tax increase the very first year. I went down there and found 10% savings. We found over $1 billion of savings at the city. Now everything's gone back to normal. So it was $9.6 billion, the budget. It's well over $13.5 billion. Who increases their budget 40% in 5 years? No one does, but the city of Toronto. And then they want to try to blame someone else for their reckless spending. Well, it doesn't work that way any longer. I always say the party's over with the taxpayers' money. You know, you want a bright future, look around the room, majority have probably have children, and they want a good solid job out there, and they don't want to have a burden of debt. I believe the number is $23,000 to every single individual child, adult, senior is in debt $23,000 because of the previous government. And when you're the largest debt in the entire world, that's staggering. Ontario, we have to do something. But we're doing it responsibly and reasonably over a 5-year period. So, we have to look at efficiencies, and no one could ever convince me there's not 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% in government. It's bloated. They have a fleet of cars at the city, $10 million worth of cars sitting in the basement, doing nothing. Why? So it's just waste. Government always wants to spend taxpayers' money. The reason why? It's not their money. They don't care. It's your money. It's the people listening tonight's money. So we're going to protect the taxpayer and make sure every one of their tax dollars is spent efficiently. So we'll make sure we review it, and they'll find the savings. We'll help them find it.
Okay, we've got Logan from Ukian News. He's right over here.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
morning,
Logan.
Premier. Thank you for mentioning about the trades and the skill training.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your keen interest in creating the skills, trade people in different trades.
Yes.
So my question is, the most of the politicians and the Canadians, they do believe immigrants and the immigrations are most important
Yes.
part of this country and the province. So when you came to power, your government eliminated the Ministry of Immigration and Citizenship in the province.
We eliminated the immigration.
The Ministry of Immigration. It's still there? No, it's not.
Though that falls under the social services, so
Yeah.
Lisa
Oh,
McLeod
so
takes care of
all
that.
the functions and the
Yeah.
responsibilities are there.
Falls under the other ministry, falls under the Ministry of Social Services.
I think we learned from news that you eliminated and a lot of services being eliminated like that.
What services? I'm not too sure, but it falls under Lisa McLeod's ministry now. And I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister saying we need more people. We need more people coming in to fill the jobs. And I think it's a land of opportunity. New Canadians come into the country and they work their backs off, and they want their children to do the best in school and get a great job. But I've always been in the philosophy of we need more people right now, but they need to go through the proper channels, because it's unfair to the people that have waited in line, their family members. My base, my voting base, are new Canadians,
Oh, yeah.
and through myself and especially Rob, when they come from another country, and in other countries, not all countries, but some were very politically corrupt and they were at war, and when they come here and they find out that they get called the mayor on his home phone, or call me on my cell phone, and they have an issue, and we return their calls, and they need support, we're there for them. And we'll always support new Canadians. But where I was going, they have the lineup, and my constituents say, well, I've been waiting for my brother, uncle, aunt, whatever, in the line, and they're going through a proper process. And sometimes it could take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. They're waiting in line. And then another group flies in, lands in LaGuardia, hops on a bus and illegally crosses the border and jumps ahead of everyone else waiting in line. And that's not fair. No matter where you go in the world, there's an unwritten rule. Anywhere in the world, no matter if you go for a restaurant or you stand in line. And if you jump in front of that line, all heck breaks loose. So people, have to go through the proper process, because it's just not fair to the line that has new Canadians, immigrants in one line, refugees in another, and then there's the illegal border crossers that sneak through the border. And the federal government owes us $200 million because our infrastructure cannot handle it here in Toronto right now. We're putting these folks up in hotels, putting them up everywhere. And meanwhile, there's a group here that's waiting in line that have worked hard, built a family here, and they just want their mother or their father to come here. And they aren't allowed to, because these other people are jumping ahead of them. So we got the federal government, it's not our issue, but we're paying for it right now.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
No, we're gonna go through everybody
Next,
first.
later on.
We've got Awais Ibrahim from Page One News, he's right over there.
Yes,
Morning.
good to see you
Right,
again.
good to see you. Thank you for taking my question.
Thank you.
Premier, for your initiatives, your policies, your strategies are making a lot of people happy.
Yeah.
You cut the red tape,
Yeah.
got the prices down, gas prices down,
Yeah.
saving tax dollars money, lots of development in GT and elsewhere also.
Yeah.
So you think this will impact the upcoming federal elections? Your strategies will help the federal conservatives win?
You know something, I'm not too sure about that. It's gonna be an interesting race. I just believe that looking at the last few elections, the whole country has gone blue. No matter if it's Prince Edward Island or New Brunswick, Quebec, they don't call them conservatives there, but they're conservative. Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, now Alberta. And people are tired of being gouged by the government. And this carbon tax is the single worst tax you could put on the economy anywhere. We're trying to compete worldwide. It'd be like each and every one of you, and you know, if you have a tool as a reporter, and I take one tool away and let everyone else keep their tools, it's not fair. So we're trying to compete against states like Michigan and Ohio that we've lost hundreds of thousands of jobs. Matter of fact, over at the border in Buffalo, they have this wall of Canadian companies that all left Canada and came to the U.S. They have all their slogans on there. And we can't compete when we have one arm tied behind our back and we're paying a tax that does nothing. Our government's very environmentally focused, and we have a great environmental plan. The agreement in Paris was to hit emissions reductions by 30% in 2030. So everyone was supposed to reduce their emissions, only certain countries, not all countries, but certain countries were supposed to reduce their emissions. So within our country, we've reduced it 22.5%. We still have 11 years to go to find 7.5%. We're leading the entire country in emissions reductions. So as we're minus 22.5%, the rest of the country is positive 5. And my argument to the Prime Minister is very simple. Why are you punishing people and taxing them more when we're on target to meet our goal of 30%? It's not fair. It's not fair to the people of Ontario. We don't need a tax on everything you buy to be responsible and make sure we have clean air, clean lakes, clean parks, clean rivers. That's what people want. And it's just a tax. The tax is going in a big pool of money. Why? You're hurting people. It doesn't do anything. And we're going to go after the big emitters as well. Any big business that's emitting pollutions isn't trying to reduce that. Well, we're going to be going after them.
Okay, next we've got time only for 2 more questions. We've got Gian Pietro from Omni.
Mr. Premier, about the carbon tax, a study released yesterday says that a plan like the one that the Ontario government is bringing forward might end to cost more to the taxpayer than the carbon tax. How can you comment this?
That's just not true. We don't believe in the carbon tax on everything you go into the store. So you bring your kids to school, it's going to cost you more through gas. Your home heating is going to cost you more. Every single thing you buy in the store, the price is going up. And for what reason? What does it do for the environment? It does nothing. All you're doing is punishing the hardworking people and businesses here in Ontario. We're right across the country. And it's not a coincidence that every single election provincially, the number one issue is this carbon tax. And every single province that ran on it, they've lost, the Liberals. So people are fed up. They don't want to be taxed anymore. Every single tax, what was the figure Fraser Institute came out with? If after everything is all said and done, we're all working half a year for the government. Imagine that, working 6 months and giving all your money to the government, and then the other 6 months we get to keep. So 50% of our disposable income after you pay gas tax on everything. Your personal income tax, your realty tax, you're left with 50 cents on the dollar. So our goal is to reduce the taxes on people. And the easiest way to get the economy going is you put money back into people's pockets, you put money back into businesses, and they're going to go out and spend it on something. As simple as a refrigerator. Our refrigerator broke down, my wife went out and bought a refrigerator. And just people will do that. But if there's a recession and you don't have the money, you aren't buying anything. And the economy dies. So the more money we can put in people's pockets, the more they'll go out, as simple as going out for dinner. It stimulates the economy. And the people can do that better than anyone. I'll ask each and every one of you, would you rather have money in your pocket that you can go spend it the way you want? Or do you trust the government taking your money and spending it? There isn't a person in the country that trusts the government to spend their money. They think, and it's true, they're better off spending their money the way they want than letting the government spend it. I'd never give, it's terrible to give government money. We try to give them as less as possible, because all they do is waste money.
Okay, the last question that we've got, unfortunately, this is the last question. I'm going by the list. So it's Jasleen from PTC Punjabi.
Yes.
Hello. Premier, my question is, one of your election promise was to bring down auto insurance rates in Brampton, but you're
Yes.
still paying the highest rates.
I'm glad you asked me that. So we have a whole task force. We're going after these insurance companies, and those rates are coming down. So as we're speaking right now, we have a task force that's going to be targeting the insurance companies. They know it's coming. And once we roll out our plan very shortly, they know we're coming for them. Because it's unfair. Why is it that if you live down the street here and our neighbors in Brampton are paying twice as much? Or my friends in Scarborough, they're paying twice as much. If you live in a postal code, it's discrimination. That's what it is. You get charged more. So the other governments talked about it, but they know we're coming for them. And they're going to stop gouging the people. And it doesn't matter where you live, you got to have a fair insurance rate. That's what it comes down to. They should judge the insurance rates based on the driver, not on where he lives. Because what's happening, a lot of people will put another postal code where their relatives live. You know, I don't blame them. Get a lower cost. But we'll straighten that out.
Okay, at this time, we're going to wrap up, but thank you all for coming. We're going to have time now for pictures with the Premier.
I just appreciate each and every one of you. I wish I could have you guys at Queen's Park all the time. We got to get you an office down
Sorry,
there.
I just have one
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly, I don't have this opportunity.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're
I'm
not,
just
Lisa.
curious about, you're going to be in the Portuguese parade. It's going to coming the next Sunday.
Yeah, I'm going to be down there. I love the Portuguese community. I do. I just love it. You know, it's when new Canadians come here, they don't judge. They sit there, they work their backs off, and they want to get ahead. They want to help their families. Those are the people I love. Those are the people I'm out there fighting for every single day. And I'll be there in a heartbeat. Thank you. I can't wait.
Thanks, everybody. We want to have some time for pictures,
Oh,
please.
No question.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Because time is already running out. So applaud to you for bringing beers to the beer stores.
Yes.
Taking the monopoly of the beers.
Yes.
Bringing it to the
So
grocery stores.
let me answer that question while
Applaud.
we're going.
And the same question already asked for the
sorry.
insurances.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will
Yeah.
be done in this tenure to
Yeah.
discrimination with the.
So we're getting that passed, so just imagine, there's nowhere in the world that has a sweetheart deal that has a monopoly from 3 global giant beer companies. Nowhere. So finally, we're challenging the beer companies to say, let people have the convenience. So let's say you're at Loblaws, you're shopping, and you're buying a steak, and you want to get a bottle of wine for dinner. why should you not be able to just grab a bottle of wine and put it in there and be treated like adults? For years, you'd have to, go to the beer store or wine store or liquor store. That's just not right. And they've jacked up the prices by 10%. Any business, I'm a business owner as well. What companies wouldn't want 12,000 more outlets distributing their beer? The beer store. The reason being they don't have the control, and they control the beer store. They put all their brands out in front, and the others they don't put out in front. And there's so many microbreweries, hardworking small breweries that want the opportunity to be able to go in their corner store or the retail store, grocery store, and put it in there. And we're going to make sure that happens, like everywhere in the world. I have friends that come up from the U.S. or even from Quebec and everywhere, and why can't you buy beer in the store? Because it's a monopoly, that's why. And it's not fair to the people. So they need the convenience to go there. And plus, a little convenience store, some of the hardest working people, everyone here has their local convenience store that they go into. Those people wake up at 6 in the morning, their stores are open at 7, 8 o'clock, and they work till 11 o'clock at night. Hardest working family-run companies, and that will allow them maybe make a little extra more money and keep their business going. So we're going to break the monopoly. There's no government in the history of Ontario that's had the backbone to stand up to the big lobbying firms and the multi-billion-dollar beer companies that have run these ads, and the only people that are hurting is the people. So the monopoly's done with those guys. There's no more monopoly. It's going to be open to the market. It's going to be open to the people finally. Imagine this, since 1926, they've had these sweetheart contracts that no one can compete. They're in control. That's a terrible system. That's not democracy, But again, I want to thank everyone, and anything I could ever help you, your families with, please call me.
Thanks, everybody. We're just going to move the podium, and we'll just allow the Premier to take a couple pictures with folks.